Haunting moments. Melissa Jenkins' final night. A cold March evening in Vermont. Melissa Jenkins, a trusted friend, steps out of her home. An hour later, her car is found idling on a back road, her toddler alone inside. This wasn't a disappearance. It was an ambush. What began as a seemingly innocent favor spiraled into an unimaginable act of violence, a betrayal by those she once trusted. The Prues. Their arrest would reveal shocking twists. Is anyone truly safe, even from those they trust most? Let's dive into the disturbing story of Melissa Jenkins and the twisted fate she met at the hands of those closest to her. Melissa Jenkins was a 33-year-old school teacher and basketball coach from Vermont. Known for her kindness, dedication, and care for her students and young son, she lived in St. Johnsbury, teaching science at St. Johnsbury Academy. Melissa wasn't just a teacher. She coached the school's basketball team, working with students from grades 9 to 12. Her commitment went beyond the classroom. She believed extracurricular activities were crucial for growth. Melissa Jenkins wore many hats, but at her core, she always showed up, whether for her students, her young son, or a friend in need. At 33, Melissa was a high school science teacher at St. Johnsbury Academy in Vermont. Her classroom was a sanctuary where students felt seen. She wasn't just there to hand out assignments. She listened. One former student said, "She could tell when something was wrong just by looking at you. You didn't even have to say anything." Outside of school, Melissa was a single mom to a 2-year-old boy. After losing her partner to suicide, she didn't let grief swallow her. Instead, she doubled down on being present for her son and community. Friends remember how she would show up to school events, even if she weren't required to be there. With her son bundled on her hip, she never complained. Melissa made it look effortless, a colleague recalled. She had this calm, gentle way of moving through chaos. Neighbors described her as generous in quiet ways. She'd do it if someone needed their driveway shoveled before they even asked. She baked treats and dropped them off without a name tag during the holidays. There was never a need for recognition. It was just who she was. "She didn't like to make a fuss," said a friend. "She just did what needed to be done." Her world was rooted in care for her child, her students, and her friends. The things she did weren't flashy, but they left a mark. That's who Melissa Jenkins was, not just a teacher or a mom, but someone whose presence made people feel safe. Then on March 25, 2012, something happened that would shake her community to its core. That evening, Melissa vanished without a trace. Her ex-boyfriend, who had spoken to her earlier in the night, grew concerned when she didn't answer her phone after promising to help friends with car trouble. He knew something was wrong when hours passed without any word from her. By the next day, when her disappearance remained unexplained, her ex-boyfriend called 911. Police were alerted, but the mystery deepened when they learned that Melissa had last been in contact with a married couple, Alan and Patricia Prues. They had claimed to be friends of hers, and Melissa had offered to help them with their car issues. After that, she did not speak. Her phone was off, and her whereabouts remained unknown. The timeline quickly grew strange. Melissa's disappearance wasn't just a case of someone losing contact. It was the beginning of a terrifying revelation. Most disturbingly, the people she had trusted, the Prues, would soon be linked to her vanishing. What was supposed to be a routine act of kindness for friends would turn into something far darker. In the following hours, the police uncovered more about the Prues' involvement. Alan and Patricia weren't as innocent as they seemed. The couple's story of car trouble started to crack, and as the investigation evolved, it became clear that they had been hiding far more than a simple breakdown. Just 24 hours after Melissa's disappearance, a search team found her body submerged in water. The discovery was nothing short of horrifying. Her body had been weighed down with cinder blocks and bound with rope, a chilling sign that her death was no accident. The Prues had not only lied about their involvement, but they had also brutally taken the life of someone who trusted them. As the investigation continued, authorities uncovered disturbing details about the Prues' past and the reasons behind their actions. What had driven this couple to commit such a heinous crime? What had they planned all along? The answers would leave the community reeling. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the twisted motives behind the crime, the shocking details of how Alan and Patricia Prues lured Melissa to her death, and the dark truths that emerged about their relationship with her. Before we continue, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe. It will help more people hear stories that matter, stories people are too scared to talk about. Melissa's story is a betrayal and tragedy, a reminder that even those closest to us can become monsters when trust is abused. But this case is far from over, and the investigation into the Prues is only beginning to uncover the full extent of their deception. What did they truly want, and why did they choose Melissa as their victim? The answers are coming, even darker than you might expect. Melissa Jenkins' disappearance became even more puzzling as the investigation unfolded. Her ex-boyfriend, the last person to speak with her on the phone that night, explained that she sounded strange during their conversation, but he didn't think much of it then. However, his concern grew when he discovered her car on Goss Hollow Road, a dirt road just a short distance from her home. This wasn't a road Melissa typically traveled, which made its connection to her disappearance all the more puzzling. When he approached the car, it was still running, but there was no sign of Melissa. He peeked inside and saw something that sent a chill down his spine. Her 2-year-old son was still strapped into his car seat, alone. Panic set in as he realized that Melissa was nowhere to be found, and her young son was left behind in the car. He immediately contacted the police, and officers arrived at the scene quickly. Melissa's son was sent to live with a family friend while the police worked to piece together what happened. Investigators discovered signs of a struggle outside the vehicle as they examined the scene. There were various shoe prints, smudges on the ground, and an unidentified set of tire tracks. Near the front of the car, they found a baseball hat that didn't belong to Melissa or anyone she knew. As they followed the tire tracks, they found something that raised even more red flags: Melissa's crushed and rendered useless cell phone. The phone was collected for evidence but didn't provide any crucial leads. The scene was carefully processed, but investigators realized the trail went cold as night fell. Whoever was responsible managed to escape without leaving anything of significant value behind. Yet the most unsettling evidence of all wasn't physical. Melissa's son, just 2 years old, had witnessed the entire event. Despite his young age, he was able to communicate what he had seen, providing police with a glimpse into the terrifying moments leading up to his mother's disappearance. Melissa's brother described him as someone who pressured her into a more serious commitment, despite her wishes to take things slow, especially since she was a single mother. According to the brother, Melissa had considered breaking things off or keeping their relationship casual. The boyfriend, however, denied this and insisted that he was on good terms with Melissa, agreeing with her decision to take things slow. To clear any doubt, police took a mold of his boots and compared it to the shoe prints at the scene. The prints didn't match, and the boyfriend was cleared as a suspect. With little more to go on, investigators turned to a new lead: Melissa's son. Given the child's age, the police brought in a specialist, an expert in interviewing young children, to question him about the night his mother disappeared. Despite his young age, the child could describe details that helped piece together the horrifying puzzle of what had happened. What he revealed would shock the investigation and lead police closer to uncovering the true culprits behind Melissa Jenkins's tragic fate. The answers were within reach, and the truth was more disturbing than anticipated. As the investigation continued, a chilling breakthrough came when Melissa's 2-year-old son gave investigators a haunting account of the events that transpired. When asked what had happened to his mother, he pointed to his neck, mimicking the motion of strangulation, and said, "Mommy cried." With this new information, the police revisited their list of suspects. One name that stood out was the father of Melissa's son. Unlike her ex-boyfriend, who had discovered her car and been cleared of suspicion, the boy's father lived about 80 miles away in Burlington. The investigation then led the police back to St. Johnsbury, where Melissa had lived. They combed through her home, searching for clues, but found nothing unusual, no sign of a struggle, and nothing to shed light on what had happened. Just as they were about to hit a dead end, a small detail caught their attention: a business card from a local snowplowing company owned by Alan and Patricia Prues. It appeared to be a recent card, and the police decided to look into it, suspecting that the Prues might know something about Melissa's final days. By now, the investigation was growing desperate. Police had little hope of finding Melissa alive, as the evidence suggested the perpetrators didn't intend for her to survive. With time running out, they expanded their search to local rest stops, ditches, and other areas where evidence might have been discarded. But all their efforts turned up empty-handed until a tip changed everything. Around the 24-hour mark, investigators received an unexpected call from a local boat launch. Someone had noticed something strange in the water at a nearby fishing spot and thought it might be worth checking out. Though they didn't expect much, police decided to investigate. As they arrived at the scene and got closer to the water, they realized the object was not just random debris but a body, and it was Melissa Jenkins. A scuba team was quickly dispatched to recover the body. The waters were freezing, the temperature bordering on dangerous for anyone brave enough to dive in, but the team pressed on. The chilling discovery of her body confirmed what many had feared. Whoever was responsible for her death had gone to great lengths to hide their crime. But the police were now closer than ever to uncovering the truth. With the Prues now firmly in sight, the investigation was about to turn dark. After Melissa's body was recovered from the water, the police discovered startling details that deepened the mystery. Her body had been found face down, secured to the bottom with cinder blocks and rope. To further conceal her, the perpetrators had hurriedly covered her with sticks and brush, though the rushed attempt to hide her location left clear signs of carelessness. Melissa's clothes were nowhere to be found, and there was no other direct evidence pointing to her killers. But the most chilling discovery was the cause of her death. She had been strangled, a brutal act that felt personal and intimate. The attack no longer seemed like a random crime of opportunity, but one driven by intense emotion, a crime of passion. As police retraced Melissa's movements from the night she went missing, they found a lead in her phone records. One call made at around 8:30 p.m. stood out. It was from a prepaid burner phone, often used to hide one's identity. Intrigued, investigators traced the phone back to a store in New Hampshire where it had been purchased. The phone had been bought using a check, and the signature on the check matched a name already appearing in their investigation: Patricia Prue. This connection led police directly to the Prue couple. As they arrived at the station to follow up, they found Patricia and her husband Alan already waiting for them. Patricia claimed she was there to report an identity theft case, suspecting her ex-husband was behind it. But the conversation quickly shifted to the investigation into Melissa's disappearance. It became clear that while the Prues had been friendly with Melissa, their relationship had soured. Melissa hadn't spoken to them in months. According to one of her friends, the reason was simple: she was uncomfortable around Alan. Alan had developed romantic feelings for Melissa, but she had no interest in returning them. Despite rejecting his advances several times, Alan pursued her, eventually leading Melissa to sever their business relationship. As the investigation deepened, the picture of a strained and obsessive relationship between Alan and Melissa began to emerge. What had started as a business arrangement turned darker, with Alan's unrequited feelings fueling resentment. He had pushed Melissa away, but she had likely never imagined the lengths he would go to get his way. With this new information, investigators could sense they were getting closer to uncovering the full story. The Prues, once seen as helpful acquaintances, were now emerging as key figures in a tragic tale of obsession and violence. After being released from the police station, the Prues were unaware they were under surveillance. Investigators suspected the couple's involvement in the crime, but they lacked concrete evidence. A breakthrough came when police obtained CCTV footage from the store where the burner phone was purchased. The video revealed both Alan and Patricia, confirming their suspicious behavior. Police summoned the couple for further questioning, this time separating them. Despite being confronted with CCTV footage and crime scene images, Patricia denied involvement. Alan, however, cracked under pressure. Alan revealed a disturbing tale of events. He and Patricia planned to seduce Melissa, but their plan turned dark. Alan admitted to overpowering Melissa, but claimed he didn't intend to kill her. Patricia intervened, and together they stowed Melissa in the back of their car, unaware that her young son was watching from the back seat. The crime, though not premeditated, was a result of the couple's twisted desires. Both Alan and Patricia insisted they hadn't planned to take Melissa's life, and the evidence supported this claim. Alan and Patricia Prue seemed ordinary until police connected them to disturbing events that revealed they were murderers. Initially, the couple had been allowed to leave the police station, though they were secretly under surveillance. The authorities were suspicious of their behavior, and suspected they might have been involved in the crime, but they didn't have any hard evidence to support this belief. However, a breakthrough came when police retrieved CCTV footage from the store where a burner phone had been purchased. As expected, Alan and Patricia were visible, confirming their involvement in the case. This raised new questions for investigators. Alan had also mentioned visiting a drive-through restaurant that same evening during his initial interrogation, so authorities requested footage from the drive-through to see if it might provide additional clues. When the drive-through video finally arrived, the police were left stunned. Alan was wearing the same hat seen at the crime scene, which had been found abandoned near Melissa's car. This new evidence forced the police to call the couple for further questioning. This time, they were interrogated separately. Patricia remained steadfast in her denial, insisting that she did not know about the crime, even when confronted with the damning CCTV recordings and images from the crime scene. Alan, however, was a different story. Under the pressure of interrogation, he eventually confessed to what had happened that night. He revealed the truth behind the couple's plans and the disturbing details that had led to Melissa's tragic fate. Alan shocked investigators by admitting that his wife, Patricia, was bisexual and had struggled with monogamy. She often encouraged Alan to bring other partners into their bedroom, and he had complied with her requests in the past. On the night of the crime, Patricia suggested they find someone to join them, and Alan specifically chose Melissa. The couple devised a plan to lure Melissa into their home by pretending to have car trouble. They called her to help, but what had initially been intended as a way to seduce Melissa quickly spiraled out of control. When Melissa arrived, Alan acted on his desires and attempted to overpower her. However, he was unable to follow through with his intentions. At this point, Patricia intervened. According to Alan, Patricia took charge and finished what he had started, allegedly against his will. Once the crime had been committed, the couple realized they had gone too far. In a panic, they stowed Melissa in the back of their car. However, there was one crucial detail they hadn't anticipated. Melissa had brought her young son along with her. The child had been sitting quietly in the car's back seat, watching as the couple took his mother away. Alan and Patricia were blissfully unaware of the child's presence, too consumed by their fear and confusion to notice. The crime was not premeditated in the traditional sense. Yes, the couple had conspired to get Melissa to come home with them, but they never planned on hurting her. According to Alan, he had not intended to take her life that night, and it was only after things escalated that he realized the gravity of what they had done. His confession revealed the chaos and panic that followed the crime, as both Alan and Patricia tried to cover their tracks. Despite Alan's attempt to downplay his involvement, he admitted that his temper had taken control that night. He claimed that once he understood the consequences of his actions, he stopped, but Patricia had taken over by then. In the following months, as the case went to court, Alan continued to insist that Patricia was the one responsible for Melissa's death. He never fully acknowledged his role in the crime, instead blaming Patricia for what had occurred. He was willing to accept any punishment the court saw fit, but he refused to accept responsibility for taking Melissa's life. As the trial unfolded, the jury ultimately found Alan and Patricia guilty. They were each sentenced to life in prison for their involvement in the crime. Since then, both have appealed their sentences, but their efforts have been unsuccessful. Throughout the appeals process and subsequent interviews, Alan and Patricia have continued to point fingers at each other. Each has steadfastly maintained their innocence, accusing the other of being the true mastermind behind the crime. The truth remains unclear. Was Patricia the driving force behind the events of that night, or was it Alan who orchestrated the whole plan? What is certain, however, is that both of them played a role in the tragic death of Melissa. But as of now, neither Alan nor Patricia is likely to see the light of day again, as both remain locked away in prison. For Melissa's family, the years following her death have been filled with heartache and a desperate search for closure. While they may never fully understand what led to her tragic end, at least they can take some solace in knowing that justice, however imperfect, has been served. The saga of Alan and Patricia Prues is a grim reminder of the unpredictable nature of human behavior and the dangers of unchecked desires. Melissa Jenkins dedicated her life to helping others, yet when she needed help the most, she was met with cruelty. Could this tragedy have been prevented if someone had noticed the warning signs earlier? It's a haunting question that lingers long after the facts are laid out. If her story moved you, Share your thoughts below. What stood out most to you? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories that deserve to be heard. Your voice helps keep these stories alive and ensures that victims like Melissa are never forgotten.